Please join us in welcoming your chairs for tonight, Robert Hillman and Christine Espenshade.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the library's president and CEO, Chad Helton, Chris and I welcome you to Mr. Pratt Presents. What I have to say next requires a costume, so you have to give me a minute. I want to thank David Rubenstein for being here and for agreeing to be in conversation with our guest of honor. For years, I have admired your amazing patriotic philanthropy and your skills as an interviewer. But now, as a devoted O's fan, I am totally focused on your role as the owner of the Orioles. We're all rooting for you and the Birds. As they say in baseball, wait till next year. And a special welcome to three dignitaries joining us tonight: Senator Barbara Mikulski, Mayor Kurt Schmoke, and Delegate Sandy Rosenberg. We're all here for the same reason tonight: to honor someone whose name has become synonymous with the Pratt. For so many people in Baltimore, when they think of the library, they think of Carla Hayden. And we all know why. From the moment she arrived in Baltimore, Carla rolled up her sleeves and worked tirelessly, and sometimes literally, to clean up the Pratt. She wasn't above putting on her blue librarian smock to dust shelves, water plants, especially when things got a little challenging. Initially, she faced budget cuts, branch closures, and low morale. But somehow, she turned it all around. Within 1 year, branches were open again for weekend service. The entire collection could be browsed online, and Pratt became the first library in Maryland to offer free internet access. And that was just the beginning in her 23 years at the helm. Carla created the world-class library we know today. I've had the pleasure of knowing her for over 30 years, from her earliest days to sending her off to the Library of Congress. Her determination and skill and sheer will has remained the same. She's always been a leader with a clear vision of the future. It's why I wasn't surprised when she told the board 18 years ago that it was time to start thinking of the next generation of library leaders and supporters. And it wouldn't surprise you that the first person I thought of was my co-chair tonight, Chris Espenshade.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. First, I want to thank the staff who has worked tirelessly to turn this place into the beautiful space that it is tonight. We were open until noon today, so in very few short hours, we went from having customers in here on the computers, reading books, enjoying the programs, to having this for you here tonight. So thank you to the staff. And I also want to say thank you so much to our very dedicated board, who we have done it all in the past 2.5 years that I've been chair. Lucky for you all, I only have half a year to go. So, but no, it's a tremendous group of supporters that we are so very lucky to have with us. And I really want to thank Bob so much. So Bob, I will always blame for my involvement in the Pratt. I worked for Mark Joseph and did so when I first moved to Baltimore almost 23 years ago. And I was walking down the hall one day at Muni May, and Mr. Hillman was coming from a board meeting or something very important. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to ask you to do something for the library, and Mark's Foundation is going to pay for it, so just do it." And I was like, "Of course, Mr. Hillman, of course, of course." And that was how the Pratt Contemporaries was founded. And I didn't have a chance to meet Carla when she first arrived, but I have seen, I've seen all of Carla and all of her amazing input, her grace, her tenacity. She was the force behind starting the Pratt Contemporaries with Kate Powell, who is here tonight, and that was 17 years ago the Pratt Contemporaries started. Kate and I were pregnant with our second children, who are now about to graduate high school. So our girls have really grown up with their moms always being at the library, thanks to Carla. But what's most remarkable about the Pratt Contemporaries are the number of people who are involved with the library philanthropically and also as board members because of the Pratt Contemporaries. And some of them are here tonight: Jamar Brown, Jacob Hodes, Beulah Sabandayo, Matthew Lengel, and I know I've forgotten others, so my apologies. But most importantly, that group in 17 years has raised almost $4 million for the Pratt Library. And these are all people who are, they were supposed to be young. We're not as young as we once were, but it is kind of the young friends group here. And Carla was the soul behind that. She's the one that said yes. The Pratt Contemporaries didn't turn a profit probably for 2 or 3 years. I think the first year we were together, we made $5,000. And every advancement person in the city was like, "That is a terrible idea. How could you even waste your time?" Well, $4 million later, I think it was a pretty good decision. And all of that was Carla. For Carla, the library is a place where a kid can receive their warm coat, a place where Baltimore can come together and have conversation. And yes, the library is a place where you and your friends can dance the night away at the black and white party. So when I think about Carla and the Pratt Library, the first word I think of is yes. And I know there are a few other people who have some things to say.
If I had to describe Dr. Carla Hayden, I would say absolutely courageous.
I would say phenomenal.
She's really fun.
Carla is warm.
Ingenious.
How many words can you come up with that say excellence?
During the Freddie Gray uprising, Baltimore just shut down. Schools were closed, businesses were closed, nothing was open. But Dr. Carla Hayden kept the libraries open, and she kept the library open at Penn North right at ground zero, so that people had a place to gather, we had a place to meet, and also children could have a place to eat because schools were shut down. She showed courage, she showed commitment, she showed character.
Well, the first time I met Carla Hayden, I was mayor of Baltimore. They brought Carla to see me at City Hall, and I must say I was blown away. She was so impressive. The trustees just gave me nothing but superlatives in terms of their recommendations, and the references that I saw about her was just outstanding. But the nice thing about her was just the personality and character that was conveyed in that first meeting. I knew that she would be the right person, the right leader for Baltimore.
The Pratt definitely changed during Dr. Hayden's tenure because I think she really understood the modern challenges that libraries were facing. The Pratt had always been a scholarly institution, but there was a lot to be done in terms of technology and also consolidating resources. It was hugely controversial that she talked about closing branches, but that was smart. Nobody wants to lose their neighborhood library, but there was definitely change that was required, and Dr. Hayden did not flinch from making some pretty tough choices.
As a historian, I came to work in the African American department under the tutelage of Dr. Hayden, and I wanted to work in this department to really bring something to the African American community. And once she was able to do the fundraising, we ended up with the Eddie and Sylvia Brown African American Department in the Juanita C. Burns Memorial Reading Room, which has always been near and dear to the African American community for over the past 23 years.
When we heard from Carla and she asked us about the African American wing at the library, it just made so much sense, because her vision was, it's useless here in the basement. Why not have it out so the community could browse, or whether they were doing research or whether they were doing papers or whatever. And it's a good place to mingle too. It's very welcoming.
Yeah, the other thing was when we saw the space of this annex, I think it was like a $45 million wing that was being added, and the space that was going to be devoted and used for the African American materials, we said, wow, this is fantastic. And
Why not?
Why not?
Baltimore is going to be proud of Carla for years and years. I mean, she was at one time president of the American Library Association, and of course she was the librarian of Congress. But what's we're really proud of is that she headed the Enoch Pratt Free Library.
Well, think of Dr. Hayden as a transformational leader. As I said, when Dr. Hayden looks at a library, to her it is not a building, it is an oasis of opportunity for each person, regardless of their age or their stage, that they can come and become their best self. They can dream, they can achieve, and they will be forever inspired and empowered. Dr. Hayden is one of the greatest empowerment people in our country.
Welcoming Dr. Carla Hayden to the stage. Thank you so much, Carla. We're proud to honor you tonight with the library's... I knew something would happen with
We're hugging too much.
the library's first ever award for distinguished service, and to name that award in your honor. The Carla D. Hayden Award for Distinguished Service recognizes the contributions of an individual or organization whose work advances, affirms, and celebrates the core tenets of Dr. Hayden's legacy: a commitment to public service, a belief in the power of storytelling, and an understanding of the essential role libraries play in communities throughout our nation. Thank you. And I'm going to just got something for you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is
Hold
gorgeous.
on to it.
It's gorgeous.
Hold on.
We're right here. We also want to give you something else tonight. Of course, it's a book, right? I know you probably don't have enough of them. But this is a special book. This is a signed first edition copy of the book you loved, Bright April. No one cries alone in my presence. I know how important it was for you to see yourself in April, and we thank you for making so many people in Baltimore and around the world feel seen, and for opening doors to generations of children.
Yes, sir. But this, oh. Chris said, say a few words. I'm actually overwhelmed. And I just have to say thank you to so many people in this room who made it possible for me to do all the things that I was able to do in Baltimore from the very beginning when the two mayors talked, the tale of two cities. Mayor Kurt Schmoke talked to Mayor Daley. And then Tyson Tilden said, she'll be safe here, to my mom. And tonight, I feel that safety. You've been really the reason why I was able to go to the Library of Congress. I didn't want to leave. In fact, I even told the ultimate interviewer, the then President Obama, that what could I do there? And he said, do what you did in Baltimore. Open it up to everyone. And they told me that during the nomination process, that photo that had "We Are Open" is what they had in the White House when they were working on it. We are open. So thank you. There's everyone in here, just about, yes, everyone in here has made it possible. And I can't thank you also enough for doing this when my mother could be here to see it. The reason why that book is so important is, yes, Chris, that was the first time I saw myself in a book. A little girl, a little brown girl who was a brownie with two pigtails, and the pictures were so pretty. They had a piano in the living room and everything. And I loved that book so much. PS 96 in Queens, I took it out, and then I learned about library fines. And my dear mother said, if you love it so much, you've got to pay for it. So just thank you so much. And I have to say, though, there was Kurt Schmoke and my board chairs that are here over the years. Bob would always say, just do it. So yes, just do it. But Miss Tenacious, Senator Barbara Mikulski, got in the well of the Congress and forced that vote. 74-18, who's counting? Though my mother has the count in her bedroom, and every time somebody comes on TV, she looks to see if they voted or not. But Senator, you did it. You wrangled it, and at the confirmation hearing, there was Senator Mikulski, Senator Cardin, and the third senator from Maryland, Senator Paul Sarbanes, who they had come up because they respected Maryland so much, and they had all three. So thank you all so much. There's more.
Oh, no, you can sit. You can sit if you like. Wow, that was pretty exciting. One thing before we get going, and I also want to thank Councilwoman Porter, who's here. My apologies. There's a lot of names moving around on these lists tonight, so we really appreciate her support and all that she does for us. So we're here tonight because of Carla. Not because everybody wanted to be in black tie on a Saturday night, not because any of that. I don't think there's any good football on tomorrow, good football. But we're here because we love you and we respect you, and we know how hard you worked to make the Pratt an amazing place, both in its spirit and in its physical space. This building is here because of you and all of the advocacy that you provided to get the state funding to renovate this place. You'd be shocked to know we didn't have sprinklers here. You know what's really dangerous? A building with books and no sprinklers. $100 million you got from the state, you raised. You worked with staff, board members, customers, the city council, donors to ensure that this would be the crown jewel of Baltimore. And it's not an exaggeration to say, without you, this would not happen. And it's now our responsibility to carry on her vision, right? The vision to be open, the vision to be free, the vision to make sure that we have books that people want to check out, materials. It's not us to tell people what to do, it's for families to make those decisions. It is our obligation as citizens of this city to promote the yes. You can always come to the library and have a yes. Yes, you can check out the book. Yes, you can have the movie. Yes, you can be here. Yes, you can check it out again. We are fine-free, so no worries about keeping your books too long. The other thing that Carla was instrumental in doing is taking the library from a place of books to a place of service. When you go to our 20-plus branches across the city, you can get immigration help, job help. You can absolutely get a peer navigator if you're struggling with drug addiction. You can get a high school diploma. You can, again, get immigration help, very important today. Learn about entrepreneurship. You can do all of these amazing things. And yes, you can still go down into the basement in the little kiddie area where the fish are still swimming. None of that is free. Shocker. We are being impacted by this federal, state, and city cuts just like everybody else. Through the generosity of you all here tonight, we've raised, thus far, $650,000, which is amazing. And our goal tonight is to raise, in my mind, another $350,000. Cindy would be happy with less, but I am an overachiever. Thank you, Mark. I will credit you for that as well. So what I really want you to do tonight is dig deep. I want you to think about what you can do and what is important to you in this city. We know that it's $20,000 to bring immigration lawyers and social workers and nurses into libraries throughout the city. $10,000 will connect returning citizens to employment, help people earn their high school diploma, and encourage teenagers to discover entrepreneurship. And $5,000 will get books directly into the hands of children and teens to build their own libraries. You know that having books at home makes all the difference in someone's path for success. So I'm not going to call you out, which I have done in the past. I will spare you that. We're going to have a nice civil evening. But I hope you drink your wine, a lot of it. There's plenty to go around. Figure out how we're going to raise $350,000. We're going to come collect your little cards. They're at the table, right? You can't miss it. They're here. Because at the end of the night, I'd like to say that we raised $1 million to honor Carla Hayden and the legacy that she has for the Pratt Library. So no pressure, guys. Don't let Carla down. And with that, enjoy your dinner. Hello again. Hello, hello, hello. I hope everyone is enjoying this fantastic evening and the fantastic meal. Thank you again to all of the people who worked so hard to put this evening together. It's a lot of work, but I think they've done an outstanding job. All right, so before we get to the main event, we want to say thank you again for being here. This is a very exciting time for the library. In just a few weeks, we are opening our first branch in 20 years. Located at the base of a new apartment building and settled between teacher housing and a high school, this branch will bring resources to Johnston Square, a community on the precipice of great change. This is in partnership with Rebuild Baltimore. Molly Hathaway, who I don't think could be here tonight, was instrumental in getting all of this going, and a really great example of a public-private partnership to bring a new branch to this outstanding community. That groundbreaking is November 10th. You're all welcome to be there, so hopefully you can make it. We also want to acknowledge all of those who helped make tonight possible. I want to thank Eddie and Sylvia Brown, our presenting sponsors. Eddie and Sylvia, every time we come, they open up with open arms to do anything they can to support the library, and so we're so incredibly thankful for all that they have done and continue to do for the Pratt.
You like the way she kind of motions me to come up here?
I learned that from Sandy.
I want to personally thank Bob Meyerhoff and Rita Becker for their support of tonight's program and for helping the Pratt finally bring a library back to the Park Heights neighborhood. We broke ground a few weeks ago, and I know that that community can't wait for the doors to open. Thank you, Rita and Bob. It could not have been done without you. I also want to thank especially Pat and Mark Joseph for their tremendous support tonight and for being such great friends to me and my wife Sandy and to the library for many years. Means a great deal to us. And thanks to Chris for her support and her tremendous leadership of the board over the past 2 years. And thank you to all of our sponsors. We're lucky to have you. And soon we'll get to the main event. Chris?
Thank you. Yes, soon. I promise. I promise. All right, so a couple of other people to acknowledge tonight who helped really put this together. If I've forgotten you, I'm sorry. I can't keep it all together most times. So, but to our main sponsors tonight, Barbara and Tom Bizzuto, Sarah and Chris Brandt, Brown Advisory, Michelle Farmer and James DeGraffenwright, Claire and Alan Jensen, Patricia Lasher and Richard Jacobs, Darielle and Earl Linehan, Sarah and Neil Meyerhoff, Mary and James Miller, Whitney and Bob Nye, Vernon Reed, the Weinberg Foundation, and Lydia Paz Baker and Cal Baker. And of course, I want to thank Bob, who again, it's all his fault that I'm here, and I want to thank Sandy for your support over the years and all both of you have done for the library. It is truly, truly remarkable. Before we really get to the main event, I just want to provide a quick update on how we're doing on fundraising. We have $155,000 raised already. So we're getting there, little by little. And I know I am not the inspiring reason that you're all here. We're gonna raise the next $200,000 over the course of the next few minutes, hours, not hours, don't worry, not hours. So we're almost there, less than $200,000 to actually raise $1 million for the library. And for Carla, let's be clear, it's for Carla. All right, without further ado, Dr. Carla Hayden, David Rubenstein, thank you so much.
Bears heavy on my mind. Then I look at you, and the world's all right with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's
Okay. So thank you all for coming this evening and supporting Enoch Pratt Library. I used to come here as a boy every Saturday, take the 7 bus down from Falstaff through Park Circle, down Pennsylvania Avenue to come here. There were a lot of card catalogs in this room. Anybody remember what a card catalog is? No. I had a lot of card catalogs. I'd spend about 4 or 5 hours here Saturday afternoons, and you know, big memories. I haven't been back since then. I would like to just say at the outset 2 things. One, I came to know Carla not from the Enoch Pratt Library, but a number of years ago, the Library of Congress set up a support group to support the Library of Congress called the Madison Council, and there are a number of Madison Council members here. Can you raise your hands who are, okay, so thank you all. The Madison Council supports the Library of Congress, and I've been the chair of it for maybe 10 years or so. And in the course of that, I've gotten to work with Carla. When she was appointed, I didn't really know her that well. And then we came to have, I think, a very good relationship because she was indefatigable in what she was doing at the Library of Congress. And I assumed that I was asked to come here tonight because we share something in common. We've both been fired by President Trump.
It's a club, David. It's a club. We should get T-shirts.
We both carry that as a badge of honor. At the Library of Congress, I worked with her on many things that were her ideas. I tried to support her, but what she did was to try to open the library to not just scholars and not just members of Congress, but to everybody. And the process began under her, and it's going to finish soon, where people can come and actually have an inviting place to actually visit the Library of Congress, and there's a place there for children to learn how to read. And that had never been done in the couple hundred years of the Library of Congress, so thank you for that. Carla also was indefatigable in helping to promote the National Book Festival. That was started a number of years ago, but it was not as good as it could have been, and Carla put a lot of energy into it. And one day a year, we had about 200,000 people come to the Washington Convention Center. We had about 85 great authors reading books, signing books, and so forth, and Carla was indefatigable there as well. So thank you for that. And then finally, I would say I have a program that I began at the Library of Congress about 11 years ago, where I interview a great scholar, a historian, about American history typically, in front of only members of Congress, and the theory that the people making the laws should actually know something about American history. And so, but it works out because we ask the members to sit with people from the opposite party, which they rarely do, and get to sit with people from the opposite house, which they rarely do because there's no more legislation anymore, so there's no more conference committees. And Carla was indefatigable in supporting that. And I want to thank you for that as well. And I just want to, before I begin the interview, I wanted to mention somebody who couldn't be here tonight asked me to read this. Somebody that's an admirer of hers, and somebody that I think we all admire. Let me just read it to you if I could. 70 and a few years ago, Carla Hayden brought forth on this continent a new baby, conceived in Florida and dedicated to the proposition that all people of all backgrounds, including children, need to learn how to read and to continue reading, especially books, throughout their lives. Now we are engaged in a great challenge, testing whether any person so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We have come here tonight to celebrate the person who holds these views. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot celebrate and honor this person by ourselves. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what those who have benefited from this person here and around the country have done with their lives. The thousands and tens of thousands and millions of people of all backgrounds, races, ethnicities, and ages who have benefited from this person's life's work have already celebrated and honored this person far above our poor power to add or detract. They have done so by learning how to read books, how to teach children to read, and how to use and empower libraries to enable people to obtain books and enjoy reading them. For those who have learned how to read books, to enjoy learning, and to appreciate the value of libraries, we hereby resolve that they shall not have done so in vain. And we hereby resolve that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of reading and libraries, and that Carla Hayden, a librarian of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall never perish from the earth. Okay. So, Carla, why did you want to be a librarian?
Oh my. Well, I call myself an accidental librarian because I was the child of 2 classically trained musicians. That's why I'm a librarian. But just like my parents, and they realized that I didn't have the talent they had. And we all knew that by 12. It was all agreed. But what I did have was a love for text and books.
But why didn't you go into something important like private equity? You didn't consider that?
Well, after I graduated, undergrad, I was wondering what to do, and my wonderful mother said, maybe while you're thinking about that, what you're going to do, you should seek employment. And so I went to my favorite place between job interviews, where they said, you're very nice, you're good grades, but whatever. And the person who was there came in to that library in Chicago and said, are you here for those library jobs? They're hiring anybody. And I said, well, all right, I like books. But I found out, and I was introduced and put in a storefront library with a young lady who was going to something that I didn't know about, graduate library school.
You went to University of Chicago.
University where fun goes to die.
Okay, so you...
Those of you who know that,
you got your PhD at the University of Chicago.
Right, and that's when I knew. I said, wow, here I am in a storefront library, and people are coming in with their prescriptions and asking us what this is. It was more than just a place for books. It was a community center, and that's when I knew.
Now, when you're in Chicago, you met a young man and his wife named Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. Did you say this man is going to be President of the United States when you met him?
Oh, no. I met her first.
Oh, okay.
Because I was back in Chicago to be with the chief librarian at Chicago Public Library, and there was a young woman that worked for Mayor Daley, Michelle Robinson, and the library was part of her portfolio. And so I got to know her, and then she gets engaged to this guy with a funny name. And then that's how I knew. Never, though, would I have dreamed that years later I would be sitting in the Oval Office across from that gentleman who said, I've seen all of these wonderful treasures at the Library of Congress. What can you do to make sure everyone sees them?
So, did you tell your mother that the job of being librarian at Congress paid less than being at the Library of Enoch Pratt?
No, and she still has a thing about that.
So you
and there were a lot of things
cut.
you couldn't do as a federal employee.
So you took a pay cut to come to the, you took a pay cut, right, to come to the library? Okay.
Yes. Look
Now,
at her. She's like, yes.
Now, when you became the Librarian of Congress, I assume you had a government car to bring you back to Baltimore every night, right?
No.
No, you didn't?
No. You only had a government car within the city limits.
So every
night,
night,
I would take the MARC train, or I would drive, and I'd see all kinds of people that were going the same way and saying...
Well, many people who get jobs in Washington move to Washington. Why did you not move to Washington with your mother? Did you think of that, or you liked Baltimore too much?
I liked Baltimore too much, and it was so... And, I mean, look... And I knew that I needed to be grounded in a way. So when I would go to the Eddie's or the Giant on the weekend, and people would say, how are they treating you over there? We'll come over there if they need to. Or just being able to just be with real people, with real dedication. And
so when you met all these members of Congress, did you say, wow, they're really brilliant people and they are great skills? Or?
Now, you mentioned those congressional dialogues, and that's where, and you should know that the congressional dialogues that Mr. Rubenstein sponsors are called Date Night in Congress. They are the only places now where they can get together, bipartisan, and actually think about their place in history. And you would be, I think, heartened when you hear them listen to historians talking about what happened before the Civil War or what happened before World War I or World War II. And you can, and one historian even said, so, you know, people like me will be writing about you in 50 years. And that gives them an opportunity to really...
So what gave you the idea of actually making the Library of Congress more accessible to people? Why not just make it accessible to members of Congress?
The Library of Congress is for Congress and the people Congress serves. It's the largest library in the world. It has just about everything. And so it had never had, for instance, a treasures gallery before.
Right.
And you were able to do that. And now people can come in and see the contents of Abraham Lincoln's pockets the night he was assassinated.
So no one can take books out of the Library of Congress. You can go there to use them, but if you want to take books out, you have to be a member of Congress. Do members of Congress return their books on time?
They still keep records. They don't have fines, let's say that.
Right.
They don't have fines. However, it is interesting that we don't share, just like any library, what they're asking for and what they're reading. And so they can do e-books, a lot of them like history though.
So, Library of Congress operates something called the Congressional Research Service, which is supposed to answer any inquiry from a member of Congress. Do you ever see what the inquiries are, and are they ridiculous, or are they really brilliant, or what?
You know, being interviewed by David Rubenstein is quite an experience. I've seen him do it with so many people, but to have that focused on you is quite something. There are records of, and they go back decades, of what not only members of Congress ask for, but also their staff members, because they're really that's the whole point of the Congressional Research Service. That's how the Library of Congress started, 600 law books in 1800 to serve Congress. And so they have the same thing, and we do make that point to them, and I made a point to them a lot, that, sir, ma'am, just like you're getting this service, that's what we do in communities all over this country. So we don't tell.
Okay.
We don't ask.
So let me ask you this.
But we don't tell what they're asking for. And so they're this special, when Congress is in session, that group of people, they're specialists in every field, are there to answer questions.
Now, the library has a very rare copy of the Gutenberg Bible.
Yes.
Can you take that out yourself at night and bring it to Baltimore to show your mother? Were you able to do that?
No, she did get to touch the Lincoln Bible, though. And that was something when I was sworn in. The Gutenberg Bible at the Library of Congress is only one of 3 in the world on vellum. And so it is if you ever visit the Library of Congress in the Jefferson Building, you will see this super duper case that we used to joke about. If anything ever happened, we were all going to get in that case. Because it has its own heating cooling system, security, but they do have to go in about every 6 months and turn a page.
So how many employees does the Library of Congress actually have?
3,500 now, down from 5,000.
And
That's small in DC.
Did any president ever come visit you at the Library of Congress?
Yes.
Who was that, Barack Obama?
Yes.
He came?
He came a couple of times.
And any other presidents come to visit?
Well, you have to define visit. I've been in DC a little bit.
Depends on your definition of
what's your definition? If they're there for an occasion. So that's different from actually looking at the collections like President Obama did, and on with nobody, well, he had people around, but to see different things. So we have had other presidents to visit on special occasions.
And Thomas Jefferson once sold his collection to the Library of Congress when the original collection was burned down by the British in 1814. Do you still have the Thomas Jefferson collection?
Most of the collection has been restored. There was another fire, and some of the copies were destroyed, but it is on display. And you can see that he was, in that time, he had the largest personal library in the United States, 6,000 volumes, and he had books in other languages. He had the Quran. He had all of these things. And there was a struggle in Congress about, should we take these books? He's got all these different things. But his library started the idea that there, as he said, there's no topic to which a member of Congress should not have occasion to refer.
So what was the highlight of being Librarian of Congress? You were the 14th Librarian of Congress, the first woman to be Librarian of Congress, and the first African American, and I think only the third librarian to actually be a Librarian of Congress.
Since 1802.
So what's the highlight of being?
One of the highlights happened about a year ago when the David M. Rubenstein Treasures Gallery opened, because it took a while to get this first ever Treasures Gallery. And so at the opening, we were able to show to everyone the contents of Abraham Lincoln's pockets the night he was assassinated, but also the Blackwell family tree. Since the 1970s, an African-American woman researched her family history, and it took years. And it is about 9 feet tall, 6 feet wide, and Arthur Ashe was one of the members of the family, and she had whiteout, but when she passed, her family didn't know what to do with it. She'd worked so hard, and the young man that had worked with her over all those decades was still at the library, and he said, "We'll take it." So at the opening, right in the next aisle, was the Blackwell family tree, and at the opening, an African-American family came up, and they were taking pictures in front of it, and I said, "Are you all Blackwells?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Oh, this is great." And then another family came, and they started taking pictures, and they didn't even know each other. So they had a reunion in front of that. And the grandmother said, "Yeah, they look like Blackwells," you know? But the fact that people could see themselves in there and know that their family history was right in there with Abraham Lincoln.
There are 3 buildings of the Library of Congress in Washington. The main one, built in 1897, called the Jefferson Building, has a gigantic, called main reading room. Gigantic, big, big dome. But when you go in there, mostly people are sleeping. So they call it the main sleeping room ever, or what, do you ever kick people out because they're sleeping there?
And I have to tell you, there's a couple here, Taylor Branch and his wife, in their hallway, they had a copy. They have a photo of the main reading room. And I said, "Oh, that's really interesting." They played footsie there. I don't think they would mind me telling you that. But there's a lot.
People can sleep there if they want to sleep there.
Well, people tend to sleep in libraries.
Okay.
That's, you know, the Library of Congress. But what you see there now are people from all walks of life. You see young people with their laptops, and they're taking in the beauty, just like in any library like this.
So when President Trump fired me, I just got an email saying I was dismissed.
Me too.
You didn't get a call or anything?
No. Probably same
pattern,
email.
okay.
Did you get thank you for your service?
Not yet.
Okay. At least I got that.
So let me ask you, what did you miss the most about the Enoch Pratt Library when you were in Washington?
The people that I worked with, and some of them are here. And also the people who would come into the library and going to the branches and seeing that. And that's what and I know that the new director, Chad Helton, knows this. We talked about it also, Heidi, before, that Baltimore has a unique relationship with their public library in a way that you don't see in other cities. People like their libraries in other cities and things, but not this visceral thing where everyone that you meet has a Pratt Library story of a certain age.
So when you were working in Washington, did you switch your allegiance to the Nationals baseball team, or no, you didn't do that, right? Okay. Well, that's good.
Well, see, remember, I had to make a choice when I came from Chicago, but I was already, at Southside, or,
Right.
you know.
And did any member of Congress ever come to you with a really good idea about something?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they don't always show it. And that's what, I think you've had that experience, that when you meet them as people, or when they're in a safe space, and the library became that safe space for them. And they had their spouses, and they brought their grandchildren, and all of this. You see them as individuals, and it does help to get that view of them.
Now, the Library of Congress sponsors something called the Gershwin Prize.
Oh, yes.
Which is for creative songwriting, among other things. and you get to host people for a concert. Who were the most memorable people that you hosted?
Oh my goodness, there was Lionel Richie, who has a new book out, still the librarian, and he mentions the Gershwin Prize and that. Joni Mitchell was really something because it was one of her first performances after having a brain aneurysm and all of this, and it was just something about her. Tony Bennett was very interesting.
That Elton
because
John?
Well, Elton John was just, what could you say? He was just phenomenal, but the people who were with him too were something, who came to pay tribute to him. And that's what the Gershwin Prize really came to symbolize, that people were being recognized for something that their creativity more than just their performances.
Now, 21% of adults in this country are functionally illiterate. They can't read past the 4th grade level, and it's getting worse. Why do you think we have such a high illiteracy rate in this country?
And at this time when there are so many challenges to having young people read materials, it's rather ironic, isn't it, that we're saying children or young people shouldn't read certain things. We want them to read. And there hasn't been as much of an emphasis on letting young people read what they want to so that they get enjoyment out of it. It's not a choice. It shouldn't be like eating Brussels sprouts.
So,
And that old thing of you have to finish a book. Well, no, you don't. There are thousands of books. Pick another one.
Now, you're obviously a great reader. If you could meet any author whose books you've read, who would you like to meet? Is there any author that you greatly admire that you'd like to meet, if you could meet them, dead or alive?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned the dead. Because there are. James Baldwin would be something that would be phenomenal. Because when you think about what he was saying and what he did, and I did get to meet, though, a person I had admired, Doris Kearns Goodwin, because of her history. No Ordinary Time, right here on this stage at the Pratt Library, is when Doris Kearns Goodwin, and I remember going home that night and opening up the book, and it was just like she was talking. And so at the anniversary of being sworn in, September 14th, she was in town, and I got to sit with her and talk about history and hope in history. And I think about her a lot now as we go through this, that looking at history.
Wouldn't you like to meet Shakespeare and ask him if he really wrote those plays, or no?
Oh, I have a long line. There are a lot of
You think
people.
Shakespeare really wrote all that? You know, okay. That's, don't
It's okay.
ask, don't
It's
ask,
okay.
don't tell.
And the
Okay.
Bodleian, you know, there, and the
Okay.
Folger Library.
Look, Carla, you did a great job at the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress, how many staff people here from the Library of Congress? There are a couple of people here who came here from the Library of
Or
Congress.
there used to be.
And they really miss you, obviously, and the city of Washington misses you. Every member of Congress I've talked to misses you. And very sorry that you are not finishing your term out, but I'm obviously happy that you are now doing something else. What are you doing right now?
I'm a senior fellow at the Andrew Mellon Foundation. And Elizabeth Alexander, who's the head of it, reached out right away and said, we'd like you to continue to work in the public knowledge area to help libraries and archives and moving forward. And I just will have to take this opportunity to thank Eddie and Sylvia Brown for, in the video, it was mentioned, when you have champions, like you're a champion at the Library of Congress, and you have champions like Eddie and Sylvia, the fact that that beautiful African-American room has, and this is thanks to another person, Mr. Vernon Reed, and some anonymous people, world-class art in that room. Sam Gilliam, Shanique Smith, and they will be featured in the November 1st Art Icon issue of Be More Art, the art of the Pratt Library, including the artwork in the branches with Graphic Jack Young, who did all of those things.
So a final question for you is this. Is your mother happy that you are now living more in Baltimore than in Washington? Is she happier, or? not.
She's extremely happy, and in fact, when we watch the news together sometimes in the evening, and she'll look at me, she'll say, "I'm so glad you're not over there."
Carla, thank you very much for a great conversation.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.